Yeah.
You probably don't know her telling you to me.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you some questions, okay?
Okay. I don't have to answer if I don't want to.
Nope, you can pass if you'd like. Okay, today is October 5th, 2024. Tell everybody your name and your date of birth.
Mona Louise Villines. You want my maiden name?
Yep.
Miss Garton.
Okay.
And I was born November the 26th, 1935.
Okay. Where were you born at?
Right here on this farm.
Right here?
Uh-huh. There was another old house back up there. It's where I was born, and then they built this new house, the rock house now.
Is it about how far is the house from here, where you grew up?
Right here.
Quarter.
Oh, it's this one down here?
Just right down there in the holler.
Okay.
That down there, we moved into it when I was 7, and it was a new house. And
Mom and
but
Dad?
we lived in a small house back up there while they was building that one.
Okay. Your mom and dad built it?
Yeah, well, they had it built.
Had it built. What was your parents' names?
Howard and Sarah Garton.
Okay.
Garton.
What did they do for a living?
My dad trucked mostly and farmed, and my mother and my dad's mother, my grandpa died, and she lived, and my mother and his grandmother farmed mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Dad was gone traveling, using a truck.
Traveling in a truck?
Well, he hauled for other people and stuff.
How many siblings did you have?
8.
8?
Had 6 brothers and 2 sisters.
Remember their names?
Oh, yes.
Let's hear them.
Well, there was Norman and Wayne and Fred and Herbert. Let's see, Norman, Wayne, Fred, and Herbert was my brothers. And then Doris and Dorothy was my sisters. Let's see, did I name everybody?
Got Kenneth
Huh?
and Keith.
Kenneth and Keith?
Kenneth and Keith, yeah. They was just older than me. I didn't mean
Right.
didn't need to be. I had a niece older than I am, so that was the size family we had. You know.
Okay. So where did you go to school?
Kingston.
Kingston.
All 12 years.
All 12 years? Okay.
You started out in the Methodist school, though, didn't you?
Started out what?
The Methodist school?
No. They had classes there, but it wasn't. It was part of the Kingston school system.
Okay.
They had classes in the old building that was up there. You probably don't remember, but there was a big church, and it was a Presbyterian church that was supported by a church in New York, and they took it out quite a while after I graduated from high school. But they built these. That's why when they built these block buildings up here, was when I started I guess I was in the 9th grade, maybe.
So, what year did you graduate?
53.
53? So, the school was in the same place it is now? You went up there the same place?
The original school was over on the other hill.
Okay.
And there was a big Presbyterian church.
Where Dennis
had
and
built
Mary Lou
this
lived.
big church, and they built
okay.
a school with it. And that was a church in New York City that had sponsored that, but it had got to where there wasn't anybody, I guess, that wanted to sponsor it anymore. So that was when they built the block buildings up here.
So, did you walk to school every day?
No, I rode, actually.
Rode a horse?
No. And we had a mail carrier that drove a truck, hauled mail from Kingston to Huntsville, and he would pick us up on his way up. But before that, all my siblings had to walk or whatever. But about the year I started to school, we rode in the mail truck, and then he brought us back home as he went back to Huntsville with the mail. So.
Kind of lucked out on that.
Yeah.
Okay, I always remember everybody talking about the swinging bridge down here.
Yeah.
Did you used to cross it?
Oh, yeah, that's where men, the group my age, where we done our sparking.
Oh, yeah?
We sat down there and visited on the side of the bridge.
Yeah.
And when a truck come along, the bridge went like this.
Really?
It would go down almost out of sight.
So it would cross I don't know exactly. I mean, it crossed right here, didn't it?
Down
She's
there
talking
by
about the one
the
down by
Parkers.
Ellie's place.
Oh, okay.
He's talking about the walking bridge, Mom.
I'm talking about the walking bridge.
Oh, that was just across the river down here. It was just we went across when we wanted to go to church or campground.
That's where you went to church at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But later years we went to Kingston.
Right.
But
So, talking about walking to church, who did you go to church with?
well, usually my mother and the family, everybody.
Mhm.
I knew everybody
Yeah.
at that time, just about.
So back to going to school. What did you take for lunch on a normal day when
Well,
you were a kid?
When they had hot lunches, and my mother helped cook them part of the time, and it was in the basement of that big church building. And
So-
that's where they dismantled that church the year I was, I guess, I'm trying to think what year it was. I was in the 10th grade. When did they dismantle that church, Kevin? Do you know? That's a big Presbyterian church. People in New York owned that, and
Mm-hmm.
they come and sold it or something. And they had to build these block buildings that's up here now.
Right.
And so that year we were really hurting because we didn't have room for all the kids. So they had them having classes in buses and different things
Wow.
just to make do.
Bob Johnson graduated from up here.
So
Bob Johnson.
so did you the hot lunches? Like what kind of stuff would it be?
Well, it was everything that Mom would cook at home.
Everything homemade?
Yeah.
So it was good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's two other ladies usually helped her cook.
Okay.
And then they served lunch to
Trey?
just by the class or
Probably had
whatever.
to be going.
In the basement of that old big church was where the lunchroom was.
So this old walking bridge down here,
Are you?
was it woods or Was it-
just across the river?
yeah?
It was went off from my field down here and
Uh-huh.
across over there to where the bluff is on the other side.
Yeah.
And it was just had big strong cables, and they had lashed web wire or something.
Yeah. Kind of keep you from falling off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it went like this when you'd walk across it.
So how many people were in your class?
This biggest class that had ever graduated at one year was 14 of us.
14.
There'd been times we might have had one or two more. But at that time, there was still quite a bit of unrest. People still trying to recover from the war and stuff.
Did you know me and Trey graduated together?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. What did we have, Trey?
18, wasn't it?
We had 18.
Well, that was the biggest class up to that time.
Yeah.
12. There's 12 of them. But we had some veterans like Raymond Haythorne and I can't think of it. There was a Chubby Evans
Yeah.
and probably people you never heard
No,
of.
I don't know.
Anyway, there's one of them, Raymond, when he had all 12 years there.
Oh, really?
He got out of the Army, and the Army paid the men if they wanted to go on to school. So he had just got married, so
So, I've always heard, did you guys sit with, when you were a kid in class, did you sit with an older kid?
no,
You guys always did your own thing?
pretty much.
Okay.
I think that after we got in like the 7th grade, we had there's this bench or seats with a table in front,
Right.
and it was about like the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade was all in one room, but they were separated. But one teacher, so.
And you said you went all 12 years?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Did you have a favorite class subject?
Not particularly, no.
Did you enjoy school?
I really did.
You did?
I loved school.
You have anything you were best at?
Huh?
Did you have anything you were best at?
Probably wasn't too good at any of it. Oh, I always made pretty good grades because I was competitive, but I wasn't all that smart. I just worked harder at it.
Yeah. Can you name any of your classmates?
Oh, I could probably name all of them.
Name a few.
Oh, yeah. Charlie and Griggs, David Littrell, Lloyd Carter. I've stopped. I hadn't thought of them for a while.
Yeah.
Valerie Gage, Joyce Clark.
You said Charlene Grigg. Was she one of your good friends?
Very best friend.
Very best friend?
We even lived together for a year. I was going to the university and she was working there in Fayetteville, so we had a room together and we had a lot of fun.
What did you guys enjoy doing?
Oh, just about anything.
Just anything together?
We had a good friend that gave us a ride to church, so we was involved in a church during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I come home every weekend. Alto Stamps that used to have the post office. His daughter lived over there, and he'd come and get her every weekend. So Charlie and I would come home instead of staying over there. So we just had a one-room apartment with a hot plate.
Right. You know her daughter Kathy?
Yeah.
Kathy and Kent graduated together. Her boy Chase, he's one of my best friends.
Well, Bill, her husband, graduated with my brother Keith.
Yep.
My brother just older than me.
So, what was one of the lowest gas prices you remember?
Oh, it seems to me like about 3 cents a gallon or something like that.
Really? A lot cheaper back then, huh?
Well, we didn't have much that used gas.
Yeah,
either.
that's true. Do you remember your first pop? Or about what age you were?
Oh, probably, I don't know, 5 or 6, but that was a big treat when you got
It's a big deal.
Yeah. We never, somebody visiting might come and buy us kids pop, but there's too many of us and we didn't have enough money.
Yeah. What about ice cream?
Well, we had an ice cream parlor at Kingston at that time. And this lady made the ice cream, I think, in her there. Her name was Clemmy Burney, and she had a restaurant, a small restaurant where she made sandwiches and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right next door to the old barber shop there on the square in Kingston. Right between that and where John D. Little had was where her ice cream shop was.
Okay. Did you ever used to make homemade ice cream, like snow ice cream or anything?
Oh, yes. Snow ice cream, we had access to the ingredients, but once in a while somebody in the neighborhood would make with a other kind of maker.
Right.
Wilson Horton and Joyce has made ice cream pretty often.
So, do you remember getting running water?
Well, we had running water from the time I could remember. My brothers would run and get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, yes, I remember when we lived in a little 2-room house back up there, and while they was building, they tore the old house down here and built this rock house. And we had running water in the rock house when we moved into it. And I was, I guess, 6 years old, something like that.
Okay.
But we carried water from a spring back up the road towards Bruce King, in the other house we lived in.
So what about electricity? You know how old you were on that?
Yeah, we got electricity. We was one of the first in this whole end of the county to have electricity.
Really?
We had a light bulb that hung from the ceiling in the kitchen and the living room in that little house. And then when we moved on down here, we had electricity through the house. But there was only like 2 outlets besides what was in the kitchen. They didn't believe in wasting money putting place where you plug. You didn't have anything to plug in, so why?
Yeah. Had what you needed.
First thing we got that had to have an outlet was iron.
Really?
It was electric iron.
Yeah.
And that was quite a
That was a big deal.
step up from heating it on the stove in between every sleeve you ironed.
Yeah. What about refrigerator? What, you remember getting one of them?
Well, my mother, Utah and I, when we first got married, went to Washington State, and they had give us a cow for our wedding, and I had them sell that cow and buy a electric stove. Well, when we went ahead and moved back here, then my dad got to where we wasn't able to take care of the place, and we come back, and so we got the electric stove. It had set out on the back porch for a year or more. They sold the cow and bought the stove, but they never had got it hooked up.
Yeah.
So we had, a little more plug-ins put in and that kind of stuff.
So what did you do before you had a refrigerator, like with your milk and stuff?
Well, you drank a lot of milk that was kind of blinky.
Yeah. Did you ever take your stuff and put it like, I've always heard people say put it under like an old spring and keep stuff cool?
Well, we had a spring back up here that Mom kept the milk in.
Yeah.
And we just carried it to the house as we used it then. But they had drilled a well down here. It's in that building out back of the rock house. They drilled that, and so we had running water. When they got the house finished for us to move in, we had running water, but we didn't have any way of heating it except outside.
Okay.
And
so what kind of games did you play when you were a little kid?
oh, anything I could win at.
You kind of like me?
We had, there's enough of us. We had pretty much our own ball team and stuff.
Yeah.
Every evening after we got the chores done, we usually had a few what we call tippy-up games. Somebody got the bat, and you could bat as long as you could, so somebody else caught it, and then you had to change places.
Did you ever play like cards or dominoes, anything like that?
Yeah, we had all these siblings, so that was our way of entertaining ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We played a lot of rook, and we had a Monopoly and several different games that we played.
Did you have what kind of jobs did you have as a little kid? Did you?
Oh, anything my mom done, I was hanging on to her dress tail.
You have to milk cows or anything like that?
Milked a cow by hand all the time. And, cow got after me one time, and had a little old dog, and it ran under the barn to keep the cow from getting it. And the old cow took me instead. So she had me down really working me over. And Mom got a fence post and beat her off of me.
Wow.
I had 2 or 3 instances where cows just didn't like me.
I've been there.
Tell him about the time that Mom and Grandma got stuck in the chicken house.
Oh, you think we're being cruel to her.
I want to hear it.
It has to do with them playing games.
We had it had been a little bunkhouse at a sawmill, and Mom had made a chicken house out of it, and she had, it's over across the road from the rock house, and she always went and checked the chickens and shut the door on them at night and stuff, for the night after they went to roost. But she'd went out there, and we had company, a bunch of 2 or 3 other kids, and boys was playing cards, and we was just having a big old time in the house, but it was just cool enough we'd pull the door to. And she had the door of the chicken house that run to on shut her in, and she couldn't get out. It had a window in it, so it was just about dark. She always went and shut the chickens in at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how long she'd been there, probably 30 minutes, trying to get our attention. We was in the house, of course, just having a big old time, and the sheriff happened to be driving by with his car windows open, and he heard her holler, and she was hollering, "Help me!"
Got locked up in there?
He drove up in the yard, and he come to the door. He said, "Have you got that woman shut up down there?" Or something about her being in there. And of course, we had never heard her. She just yelled till she couldn't yell. Oh, she was mad. Anyway, she was mighty glad to see us when we got down there and opened it. The latch on the door was kind of loose, and it had flopped over and locked it from the outside so she couldn't get
Couldn't get out. So, did you have to wash clothes when you were a kid, like with your mom?
Well, I would help. We boiled the clothes and to get the dirt out of them.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have a lot of the bleach and stuff you have now. And I would help her hang out clothes. We didn't have a clothesline. We used the fence, and she'd have clothes from that branch up there clear over to this corner of the yard. And
Did you use a?
I had 6 brothers, so there was a lot of.
Yeah. Yeah.
denim
Did you have
pants.
Did you use a washboard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mom. But later on, one of my brothers, after he got big enough to work away from home, he bought her a gas-powered washing machine. And we didn't have electricity yet then. So she had it sitting on the front porch of that old house. It was a small house and there wasn't room inside. But she still had to boil the water, to carry it from the spring and so forth. So that was always, some of us kids had help with that.
Yeah.
Brothers. But all my brothers was all older than me, so I lucked out on that score.
Oh yeah.
But I also come up with a lot of fights I didn't win. Too.
I bet. Yeah. So, what did you sleep on? Like what kind of bed?
Well, and when we lived in that old house, we had 2 beds in the living room, but there was a whole lot more people than that. So they brought in a bunkhouse from a sawmill, this small house that had some beds in. My brother slept out there, and we had 2 beds in the living room, and you're talking about the whole room probably wasn't as big as one of my bedrooms. And we had 2 beds and a big pot-bellied heating stove, and a thing that we called a davano. It was our attempt to have a divan. And everybody was getting davanos.
Yeah.
It's just a couch. Well, we didn't really have room for anything like that. But Mom took an old, I'm trying to think what it's called, a cot, I guess, that folded up and made sides, or you could fold it up and have a back to it. Now, you guys are going to miss the best part.
Yeah, it's just getting good. See you guys.
Anyway, she would fold up quilts and put on that, and that was our davano.
Okay.
They didn't call them divans, they called them davano.
What about pillows?
Well, Mom made feather pillows.
Feather pillows?
She raised chickens and made feather pillows. She'd buy some real coarse.
Like pillow sacks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she just bought the material and made the.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I probably still got some of those pillows. They were.
You do still have some of them?
Yeah.
Okay. You'll have to show me.
They're in the beds. I'm not even sure which one. Probably downstairs in the bed.
So, did you like to garden?
Oh, I loved it. But I was with my mom all the time, and I just right at her heels all the time. I still love to garden.
What did you guys plant most of? Just
Yeah.
a little bit of everything?
Yeah. We didn't have a lot of the things that people grow today, but we had potatoes and beans and 2 or 3 different kinds of beans, And Mom always grew cabbage for kraut. She always made a lot of kraut. And pretty much what we have today.
Mm-hmm.
Some broccoli and stuff like that was unheard of.
Oh, really? It's unheard of back then, huh?
But probably maybe other places, but not here.
Not around here. Was there many deer back then?
No,
Was there many deer
there was
around?
no deer here.
No deer?
With my brothers, by the time they started getting old enough to go hunt, they went out one year to Salos, I think was the name of the place, way out between here and nowhere. But there was no deer here at all. There was no turkey here,
No turkey, no deer.
unless
Wow.
it was a tame turkey.
Right. Wow.
We
You
had a lot of squirrel hunting
had a lot of squirrel hunting?
and rabbit hunting.
Yeah.
We ate a lot of rabbit and fish and squirrel.
Quail.
Yeah, did you have a bunch of quail?
Very few.
Very few?
I don't know. I think there was a few around, but not enough that they could hunt
Right.
or anything.
What's some of your best memories with your mom and dad when you were a kid?
Well, my dad was gone an awful lot. He had a truck and hauled to other places and even moved people and stuff. So it was mainly with my mom, but I was with her, hold on to her dress tail everywhere she went.
Yeah.
And one time her family was buried at Lower Horton Creek, and we went over to Decoration Day, and you know, I was hardly ever around anybody but my family, so we were kind of shy,
Yeah.
you know, but we went to this decoration, and she always had a lot of relatives that showed up, so I stopped and was visiting with one of my cousins that was there, and Mom had walked on down with somebody else, and I just panicked when I looked up and she wasn't there, because I never went anywhere without her with me. And I remember running just as hard as I could run and looking and trying to catch up with her, because she'd walked on and talking with other people. Anyway.
So you were a mommy's girl.
Well, I was the youngest of 9. I guess she might have spoiled me.
I bet, yeah.
Tell me about who you wound up finding.
Well, that time I found Mom, but the other time I got lost like that, I was in the hop field in Washington State. We went up there one summer. And I got to lingering behind, visiting with somebody I hadn't ought to been probably. Anyway, Mom walked on, and when I looked up, I couldn't see her anywhere. And I took off running. I thought it was her. I took off running as far as I could run. I was probably about 7, maybe 8. And I grabbed a hold of this hand I thought was my mom, and I looked up and it was a Mexican man.
Oh, really?
They come in there to work,
Yeah.
and it scared me. And I was afraid of them, just like the boogers or something.
Yeah.
And
Kind of embarrassed you?
but it embarrassed me and it scared me, because I looked up and Mom wasn't even in sight. And I jerked away from him, and I heard him laughing to one of his buddies. He said, "I got me a senorita." Anyway, he enjoyed it, but it scared me.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, you remember the first car you rode in?
No.
What about first car you owned?
Well, Utah and I bought a car. I guess that was the first one I'd ever owned, or part of. That was in 53.
53?
I was, of course, we had cars. My dad he hauled, he had a big truck. He hauled for a living and moved people from here to Oklahoma and different things. So my dad had a car from the time I could remember, pretty much. I think he bought a Model T when Kenneth was a baby, and Kenneth was, I don't know how many years older than me, but that was first one he ever bought, I think. But from then on, he hauled a lot, moved people and that kind of stuff. Mom did the farming.
So where did you meet Utah at?
We went to high school together.
Went to high school together?
Yeah, his school consolidated, and he had come to Kingston in the 8th grade. I guess it was the 8th grade. But he had polio that year in the late summer, so he missed the first month or so of school. But he got over the polio, which was just a miracle.
Yeah, that's
and
a big
started
deal.
school at Kingston in that year.
So where was Utah living at then?
They lived out in Newton County.
Newton County?
They had just consolidated the school out there,
They lived just above Lost Valley.
Just above Lost Valley? Okay.
and it was his first year to go to Kingston to school.
Do you remember your first job out of school?
I don't know what that would be. I worked in an ice cream parlor one summer, 2 summers, in Texas. I guess that was probably the first paying job I had. I babysat my niece and nephew and worked when when my sister was home with them.
Do you remember what you got paid? What kind of money?
No, it's probably 60 cents an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
But that was 60 cents I didn't have before
Yeah,
that.
it is. What did you and Utah enjoy doing together?
Well, I guess milking cows, we did an awful lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
And we traveled some. We had some good friends. Mary and David Littrell was good friends, and we traveled with them. We probably wouldn't have if it hadn't been for Mary, because she was superintendent at some schools. And David worked for a steel canning company for years. But anyway, it talked Utah into turning loose long enough. And we turned it over to these boys for a few. It's kind of hard to get away from milk cows.
Yeah, I bet. So what year did you marry Utah?
1953.
53? Okay.
I reckon, wasn't it, Ken? We got married in 55, didn't we?
Don't get
I
me
graduated
wrong.
in 53. I didn't think that sounded.
So
Graduated in 55.
I thought he went
I
out-
married in 55.
married in 55.
I
Okay.
thought he went out to Oregon before and got lovesick for you and came back and got you.
Huh?
I thought he went out west and got lovesick and came back and got you.
Well, I don't know if that's the way it happened, but anyway, we dated in high school,
Yeah.
and he dated other girls and I dated other boys, but it just we couldn't
Couldn't
just
get away from
over
each
it, I
other.
guess.
Yeah.
Don't think I was ever sorry.
Yeah.
There might have been a time or two for a little while.
But only when you was working with him.
Yeah.
Only when you was working cows.
He said only when you were working cows with him.
Oh, I didn't get so mad at him. He'd get mad at me. I was always in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I've lived with that my whole life.
I think it's nature.
Yeah, it is.
I could not anticipate what he was thinking.
No. Everybody does it different. You just gotta.
Well, his old cows, he would keep them shut out of that 4 fields until he wanted them to eat it. And he'd have to go out there and he went out and they'd been in there and they hadn't had any water to drink for most of the day. So he told me, he said, you stand down there and don't you let them go across that branch to the pond. Well, which that pond is half a mile long. I mean, that road. Anyway, I had just run till I was give out, and they were just going around me and going on over to get him a drink. He was on a horse. He was riding around. Anyway, he come up there. Why didn't you stop them? I said, Utah, I've done the very best I can. And anyway, he was huffing, and he went on over to get them away from the pond. They'd been out without water all day.
Yeah.
You know? So he wasn't no getting around. So he went on his horse and he got him wound back up. And but he told me, he said, now you stand right here, don't you move. And all right, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Well, I stood right there, went out and gathered all these cows. It's probably 60 head or something. And he gathered them up and he got around them again. And he said, now you stand right here, don't you move. So that's what I done. I stood right there. They coming all the way around me. Anyway, the first impulse he had, I think, was just to knock me down.
Yeah.
But then he got to thinking of what he had said, and he started laughing.
You were just doing what you're told, huh?
Anyway, we got along pretty good.
Yeah.
Anybody that can work cows together can get along with anybody.
That is true.
Kent and Kevin, they got a lot of that, helping with the vaccinating and operating and whatever.
Mhm. So, you have a favorite food?
I like everything.
Like everything?
Not any particular thing, no. Just,
You have anything you don't like?
oh, maybe a few things. I really just, I can't think what they are.
She don't
I
like
like-
fish.
Don't like fish?
No, I don't like fish, but I used to. When I was a kid, we ate lots of fish,
Yeah.
but I can't stand to smell them. When I was pregnant with Sherry, Utah loved fish. He would eat them 3 times a day. Well, his folks was up in up in around Olympia. So we'd been down the coast and we come back up and there was a favorite eating fish place of his that he wanted to stop. So I hadn't been pregnant but just a little while and everything was pretty yucky anyway. But he insisted on me eating a piece of fish and it just made me deathly sick. And I haven't been able to even smell fish hardly since then. But we ate a lot of fish when I was growing up. A lot of squirrel and rabbit.
You have a favorite color?
Oh, no, not particularly. I like about all colors.
Like them all? Do you remember your first time going to a restaurant? I remember the first time a boy ever took me to a restaurant. And he bought me a hamburger, and I think it was 25 cents, and I didn't enjoy it because I was afraid he didn't have enough money to pay for it. Oh, really? Wow.
But he did, I guess. He bailed us out. Anyway.
Yeah.
But no, you just didn't go to a restaurant back then.
You remember where it was at?
That was in Cozy Corner Cafe in Huntsville.
Huntsville?
I think it's out of business now, but it hasn't been too awful long.
It's up there where the Y is, isn't it?
Huh?
Cozy Corner is up there where the Y Cafe is, isn't it?
No, it was right down there on the corner from where my store was.
Okay.
Down on that corner. Right before you get to the lumber yard there.
You said your store?
I had a clothing store in Huntsville for
Oh, really?
9 years.
Okay.
Back
I
down.
didn't know that.
Yeah. I didn't get rich.
It's hard to do.
But I met a lot of nice people.
Yeah.
And some that wasn't so nice.
Yeah. So what year did you and Utah build the house?
Well, how long's it been, Kent?
78?
Since we built this house.
1978.
Somewhere along in there.
I was a junior in high school.
Been way longer than that then.
Come on.
We lived down in that house down there until my dad died not long after we came back. That's the reason we come back. He's in real bad health. And so we lived. Mom didn't want to, she wanted to stay there, so we moved back in with her and stayed there until, Kent was, how old were you when we built this house?
16.
15?
He said 16.
16.
Yep. So
That's still a real sturdy old house down there.
yeah.
We was talking about that yesterday. Most houses, doors get to where they don't close good and all that. There's not a door down there, but what just fits just like they always have.
I'd say it was built on a good foundation, wasn't it?
It was built on a good foundation, and it was a rock wall on top of the foundation.
You told me the other day that they had to haul that flagstone up from Fort Smith. About all the flagstone houses you see,
Oh, really?
all that rock came from Fort Smith. That'd been a pretty good haul.
Yeah, it is.
40s.
So we moved in there when I was 7 years, just turned 7 years old.
So how did you take a bath when you were a kid?
Well, just as often as I had to.
Me too.
We had from the not long. We had water in the house when we moved into this other house. They drilled a well and had water in the house, but we didn't have a heater or anything. But so we just had to wash tub and that kind of stuff until I was I don't know. It wasn't but a couple of years till we had water, hot water and everything in the house. We just got plumb uptown then.
Yeah. So, throughout your life, what invention of all the inventions has wowed you the most?
Have done what to me?
Like, what was the biggest invention? Like getting a phone, getting electricity, getting running water. I mean, that's not an invention, but
Probably
Okay.
the electricity made the most impact, because we had was one of the first ones that got on electricity. This line that come up from the highway.
mm-hmm.
It was nobody back in the hills here had
electricity for quite a while after that.
Yeah.
But when we lived in that little house, before we moved into that house down there, we had electric lights hanging from the bulb.
So, did you know my grandparents? Did you know James and Patsy?
Oh, yeah. They're both younger than me.
Yeah, that's my grandma and grandpa.
Yeah, I knew it was.
Yeah. What about Nettie? Did you know Nettie?
Yeah, I knew Nettie.
That's my grandma.
Yeah, before she married
Clyde.
Clyde.
Yep.
Clyde and his kids.
Yep.
H.C. was in school still when I was small. And
Yeah.
he rode up to the school. We rode in the back of the mail truck. He'd stop and pick us up, and then it would bring us back in the evening on his way to take the mail back to Huntsville.
How much older was H.C.?
Well, he's the same age as my brother Fred, which was, I don't know. He
90.
was in high school when I started school, probably about a senior when I started school. So.
Okay. So do you remember Maxine and Ruth?
I never did know them either one very well, but I knew who they were.
Yeah. Okay. What states have you been to? Like, what's the farthest you've been? What?
I don't know. I guess I've been to about all the states sometime or another.
Wow.
We've made several trips up the East Coast, across into New York, and
So you've been to?
just about all of them, I think.
Really?
We traveled with Mary and David Littrell
Yeah.
about every summer for several years.
You could tell them about the trip out in the back of that truck with,
Yeah, that was the most memorable one.
to do the hops.
When we went to Washington to work, my dad still owed on the house on the farm, and no way to make money. And so we got a neighbor man to come and stay in the house and take care of the cows and stuff while we were gone. We were gone for about 3 or 4 months, and he took the whole family up there, and we all worked. I was too young to really have a job, but my job was keeping the beans warm so they'd have something to eat when they come in at lunchtime. But my brother Keith, they had a job for him. They worked in the hops. I don't know if you know what that is. But they have the big machines, and Mom and Dad worked on a hop machine, and of course even before that, when you had plant these hops and you had to cut them so they'd grow a certain way and all that. And we worked. We went 2 or 3 trips up there. Went twice. Dad still owed on the farm. He'd bought it from his siblings, but then during the Depression, he wasn't even able to make a payment, and I don't think the payment was $50 a year or something.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it was about when my grandpa had bought the farm, and he had died suddenly, so it left my grandma with a house full of kids, and then when Mom and Dad married, they moved in with Grandma and lived with her from then on, and then she moved up here with us when we moved up here.
Wow.
But,
Do you have of all the states you've been to, do you have a place that you thought was the prettiest? Or a prettiest state or anything like that?
I don't know. All of them had a certain amount of beauty, I think.
Yeah.
I probably, up in the Carolinas and Virginia, was really pretty.
Big
It
hill.
makes me sad to see what's happened in the Carolinas just
I
the
know.
last little while.
Yeah.
Have some good friends up there.
Have you been to that part of the country?
Yeah,
Like where that
we
hurricane hit?
We made several trips, different trips. We went up the East Coast and spent, I guess, I don't know how long we was gone, Kent. A week or 2. I don't know.
Give me a line.
We went over through New York and, we traveled around to different places.
It's big.
We traveled with Mary and David Littrell.
Big hill country up North Carolina and all that, isn't it?
It looks a lot like here.
It's similar.
The best I remember.
Yeah.
But
It's what I've always heard. I had never been out there.
the Virginia's pretty much the same as here, I think,
Yeah.
too. But we went all the way up that coast over into New York. We didn't go down into the main city, but we came through the underskirts of it.
Yeah.
And I think we was in about every state for sometime during that time.
Did you ever have a nickname?
Oh, I had one from every brother I had.
Do you remember any of them?
Well, one of them was Humpty Pot
Oh yeah,
because I didn't stand up straight.
yeah.
And that, oh, I was trying to think some of the others. But they all,
I heard
anything that'd make me mad, that's what they call me.
someone call you. Was it Momo?
Oh, that's the kids, yeah.
Is that the kids? I think
Chris-
Brandon Martin might have
His
said
daughter
that.
calls me Momo.
Yeah, that's all the grandkids call her Momo or Mimo.
Mimo.
I think it started out as Mimo and it's finally got down to Momo, or
Momo.
just plain Mo.
Yeah. Maybe that's what he called you, Mo.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you name?
Mona's my name, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. Can you name some of your school teachers?
Probably all of them if I had time.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite school teacher?
I always liked all my teachers pretty good. There might have been one or two that I didn't like as well.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
You know, Flossie Smith was a teacher up here for years. And you know the Gurleys in Huntsville, Charles Gurley?
Yeah.
Her mother was Flossie Smith. And she taught up here for
Oh, wow.
years.
Yeah, I'm related to a bunch of the girlies.
Are you?
Yeah.
Charles Gurley?
Not sure which ones, but yeah.
Charles is still living, but his wife died a couple of years ago.
Those are the only girlies I know. Rick and
Yeah, Rick and all them, I'm related to them.
yeah, Charles is there.
Yeah, Rick and Kent's about the same
Okay,
age.
that's right. Yep. Do you remember any fads, like any certain hairstyles? What was the hairstyle back then? Do you?
Well, most everybody had long hair. The
Everybody had
girls.
long hair.
And the boys did not have long hair. That was a sign of laziness.
Yeah.
And I didn't think there was a boy that I ever knew that had a beard of any kind.
Everybody clean shaven with short hair.
Yeah.
T-shirts and rolled up sleeves.
T-shirts and rolled up sleeves.
I don't remember about the rolled up sleeves. They're probably lucky to even have sleeves.
Yeah.
That's how they carry their cigarettes.
Yeah. Do you remember getting in trouble with your parents any?
No, not too bad. No,
She was the baby.
I was
Spoiled.
I was number 9 then
You were
already.
spoiled.
Well, maybe so. I don't know. I had an awful good mom and dad. Dad
Yeah.
worked hard too. He was gone a lot.
Yeah.
He had a truck and he hauled people and animals and wherever they need to go. He was gone a lot. Mom did the farming, and my grandmother Garton. She lived here after Grandpa died. She lived with my mom and dad, and he had 2 sisters that were not grown, and so they all lived in the big old house that was down here before that one was built.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just one living room and a small kitchen that had been added, I guess, later. But the whole house was just one big room like this, and it had a fireplace on one wall, and no windows, a door or two. But that was what they tore down to build this rock house
Right.
down here.
You're gonna like this next one. You ever been to jail?
No, I've never even wanted to.
Me neither. I just threw that one in there.
Don't ask Kent that.
I better not drag Ken in on this
Yeah, I
one.
don't want to know.
Kent's over here shaking his head. So, what are you most proud of today?
Oh, my family, my
Family?
grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And I've got a passel of them. I think it's 19 or 20 great-great-grandchildren.
Wow.
I've got 2.
It's great, I think.
I've,
Yeah.
Great.
I've got 2 great-great-grandchildren.
Yeah.
2.
2 great-greats.
2 great.
I've got
You got
19 or 20 great-grandchildren. I'm going to populate the whole community.
That's good.
She's got 3 greats.
3 greats.
We have quite a family reunion when we get together now. There's about 50 of us
That's good.
for Christmas and stuff,
That's good.
about to outgrow my house, though.
That's all right. Have you ever flown in a plane?
Yes, we made a couple of trips to Washington. Utah's family wound up near Olympia, Washington. We went up there. We've been up there twice, Kent. Can't remember.
I don't remember you flying, but
We flew up there with Randy and Shay went with us, and we flew to Olympia, Washington. I guess
So heights never scared you?
no, it bothered Utah worse than it did me.
Yeah, it bothered me my first time.
It didn't bother me at all.
Have you ever deer hunted?
I was a deer watcher.
A deer watcher? That's,
I never really tried to hunt. I used to go once in a while with Utah,
yeah.
but
He enjoyed it, didn't he?
yeah, when he could find time to do it.
Yeah.
He liked. They deer hunted in Washington State. They lived up near Olympia, and we deer hunted up there. And there's so much underbrush you can't. You just have to climb over one big log in front of it. It's a lot of big timber and stuff. But he killed a deer that year he hunted up there. His folks wound up near Olympia, Washington, so we went up there and stayed there. I guess we was there 4 years, maybe.
a little town called Shelton.
Shelton,
Shelton.
Washington.
Okay.
It's right close to Olympia. In fact, we were probably really close here where we lived to Olympia. That's the capital. So, and he still has a sister that lives there, and some nieces and nephews and stuff.
Okay.
That's pretty country.
Yeah, it is. So, did you have a favorite dish to cook? Like, is there anything that you were known for cooking?
Not really. Just trying to cook enough was always the problem.
Yeah.
We've always had open house. We never knew how many was going to be there. Isn't that true?
Did you like cooking like pies?
Not,
Were you
No.
Did you more
might make a cobbler once in a while.
cobbler? Yeah.
But we've always had so much company and a big family. It's hard to make enough pies.
Yeah.
So cobbler went further.
For her, cooking was just an extra job. She was good at it.
She's good at it, just didn't want to.
I haven't cooked much lately. Always had to just be sure there's enough. That was the main
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, we might be down there hauling hay and have two families of her brothers and sisters just show up,
Oh wow.
and they may bring friends.
Yeah.
When we didn't have a telephone, so they couldn't let us know they were coming. But
So you just
I
had
kind of panicked about time it was time to go to the dairy barn to milk for 2 or 3 hours, and about a dozen people show up for supper.
Yeah.
And that happened several
And
times.
stay a week.
Oh really?
I
Just
had-
show up and stay, huh?
I had a brother that lived in Wichita, and he had 4 kids, and he had friends that had kids, and we never had time to play with them when they was here. We was in the dairy barns 8 hours a day, or at least, and sometimes more. And so we just had to kind of work them in, and we didn't have a telephone, so they couldn't call and tell us, well, hey, we're coming or anything. So one time my brother and his 4 kids and another couple and 2 kids come in about 3 o'clock, and just about time for us to go to the barn. And I didn't have anything, because I usually cooked a noon meal. We ate that a little early, and then we just snacked at supper. They come in, and I didn't have anything to fix them. Well, I had to go to the dairy barn. So when we got back out of the dairy barn, my sister-in-law went with me, and we went to the cellar. And we got all the jars we could carry, of half-gallon jars of canned stuff. And starting back to the house, she said, this is the first place we've stopped. They'd been kind of on a tour. I said, this is the first place we've stopped. They've not had to go to the grocery store. I said, Wendy, this is the grocery store.
Yeah. Yeah.
And try to come up with that much food for that many people is kind of a chore.
Yeah, I bet.
They never thought to ever let me know ahead of time.
You were talking about your dairy barn. What year did you quit that?
Oh,
86.
86?
I couldn't remember. Yeah.
You remember how many cows you milked every day?
Oh, yeah, it was varied, but most we ever milked, I think, was about 75. You always had some that was dry.
We
You
got
know,
up to 100 and some at one point, Mom.
well, but wasn't all milking at the same time. I think
don't know.
about
Sure
70 or
seemed like-
80 at one time was about the most we had dry ones out in the field, yeah. But
So
it was a busy time.
walk me through that. So you'd milk one.
We had a
How'd that
we
process
had a
work?
dairy barn that had 3 stanchions, and it was pipeline milkers, and you just run them three at a time, or however many stanchions was empty. You just bring another one in. Had doors that opened with like this.
Okay.
Bring another one in, and then if you're milking by yourself during the early morning, they wouldn't all come in, but I'd milk what would come in first. One morning I run out of cows and still wasn't nobody down there to help me milk, so I had to go out in the field to bring in some that I knew hadn't been milked. And I got out in the middle of this field, and I don't know it was still just kind of moonlight, and the cows spooked at me. They didn't know what I was, and every one of them jumped up and headed right towards me, and I was standing right in the middle. I thought they was going to run right over the top of me, and when they got up just before they could see what I was, they just went on around me. I
Leapt out.
kind of panicked. Just a
Yeah,
little
I
bit.
bet.
But one person could handle 3 stanchions most of the time. So usually, either I was feeding calves or somebody else was feeding calves, and I was milking. And Kevin and Utah was the main milkers.
Mm-hmm.
And when Utah's in the hay and stuff, a lot of times I milk by myself.
So you were a busy lady.
And when he sold, he finally, the price of milk got to be, they give us, I don't know what you call it, but they would pay you so much for so many pounds or whatever. And so it was a good deal. So Utah decided he's tired of milking, that we'd just go back to, he was going to log, and him and Harold Hope went together a log, and Utah had a real bad fall and could have been killed so easy. So he decided maybe milking wasn't that bad. But by that time, we bought this clothing store in Huntsville. So I was already tied up with that. And so Kevin and him milked. And he just hired Kevin to help.
Sounds like you always had something going on.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
What's land prices are crazy today. Do you remember what the going price for land was?
Well, let me think about it. This place, I'm trying to think what my grandpa paid for it. Seems like it was like $3,000 or something.
And how many acres?
This is 250 in the camp, 250, 250 something.
For $3,000?
Yeah.
Well, they used
That's-
to own all that over across the river too.
Yep.
Do what?
The original farm was even there where McCullough's place is.
Well, that was a different place, camp. That belonged to the campground. That was a different farm than this one. My grandpa bought it,
Yeah.
but we never lived there or anything. Where Frank McCullough lives over there now.
Okay.
But it was a pretty good sized farm. But my grandpa didn't have very good health. They had lived in Nebraska, and the weather was so fierce there in the winter. They come here because of his health, and he'd just been here about a year and a half, and he got typhoid. There's an epidemic of typhoid fever, and thought he was getting over it, and he hadn't been able to eat anything. I guess when you have that, your whole intestinal tract is solid sore. And he'd begged for, Grandma had opened some sauerkraut, and he was German, and he loved sauerkraut. He begged for some sauerkraut, so she just gave him some juice off of it. And it was, had a lot of salt in it. And he drank just a little of that. I thought that was what killed him. It set all those sores to working again. And He died from 46 years old
Man.
and left her with, she had 4 grown kids that were about grown, and then she had a little girl that's 2 and was 8 months pregnant with another one, and not a dime to her name.
Hmm.
So she had owned this for the barn is here, and then the next field on the other side of this farm. And that was all part of this place that when my grandpa bought it. But she had to sell that just to get enough money to pay the taxes a year. And she just dug in, and then when Mom and Dad got married, they moved in with her, and they all lived together until Grandma was, she had 2, had a new baby and a 2-year-old, plus the bigger kids. And they all lived together in that one big old house.
Wow.
It takes some ingenuity.
So how many kids do you have?
Oh, I got a whole bunch that never have grown up. I just got.
She's looking at you.
I just got 4 naturals.
What's their names?
Kent and Kevin and Sherry and Charlotte. Sherry's the oldest, and then Kevin, and then Kent, and then Charlotte.
Okay. Do you have any advice for young couples today? You surely.
I could probably give you a whole bunch that you would never adhere to.
Let's hear them.
Yeah. When you're mad, your husband's mad, or one of you's mad, the other one keep your mouth shut. That would stop a fight faster than anything.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
We didn't have time to fight. I don't think we ever had a really bad one.
That's
He'd get
good.
pretty mad at me sometimes if I didn't head the
No,
cows
I've
like
seen-
I was supposed to.
I've seen her use that advice before.
When we'd get into it when we was working cows, because he always expected me to know what he's thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't. But one day he was, all the cows, he hadn't had them out off the pasture all day long. But he wanted to do something to them that day before he turned them out, where they could go to water back over here. Well, he told me, he said, you stand right here and don't let them go around you. Well, there's about a half mile from where I was standing to the next fence. And I'd run till I was just give out, and they were just going around me. And he was on a horse, and he wasn't bothering him to have to chase them. But they went around me, and he came up and said, why did you not stop them cows? I said, you thought I couldn't. They, just going, they had needing water, and they was going to cross that branch whether or no. Anyway, he took his horse, and he told me, though, you just stand right here and don't you move. So I done just what he told me to. He took all them cows back, and of course he didn't get them over there until they all started back across, and I stood there.
Did what you're told.
He was on the horse.
Yeah.
And he come up there, and he looked at me. Why didn't you stop them cows? I said, you told me to stand right here.
Yeah.
And he got tickled. You could tell for an instant it just made him furious, because I had just repeated word to word what he had said. Anyway, we got along pretty good considering we worked 24 hours a day together.
If you could go back to any age, what would it be?
Well, not this age. I don't know. When my kids was little, it's all each age has its blessings and its troubles, and you just deal with it. I've had a really good life. I really sincerely say that. Every phase has had its blessings, and every phase has its problems, but you just deal with it as it comes along.
It's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
And do the best you can with the knowledge and strength the Lord gives you.
Yep.
I think her favorite time's the time she's getting to spend with me so much.
Quarreling at you.
You hear what he said?
But
He said he thinks your favorite time is getting to spend time with him all the time.
here comes another one. Now, better not talk about her.
Hi,
Hello.
She's too.
Uh,
how are you?
no, each age has had its blessings.
You're
Yeah.
looking slim and trim these days.
And I've always felt like the Lord was
Yes,
with me.
thank you.
Yeah.
I think.
and that's blessed me beyond measure.
Right.
And
Gotta-
I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yep.
I had a chance.
Got a good family. That's about all you can ask for.
I've got 19 great-grandchildren.
Yeah.
And now
Can't
it's a
ask for
great
much more. Yeah.
And they're still coming. We're going to have to build a bigger house, I think. Our Christmas time is really getting full up.
Yeah.
Right.
So 2 more questions here.
Okay.
How do you want to be remembered by everybody?
Well, what I would like probably won't be the way it'll be, but I hope that they will remember what I've taught them about Jesus, and I hope that I've never been a downer,
Right.
and encouraged me instead. But I'm still waiting to see how they turn out.
She keeps looking at Kent over.
They've all done well. I'll have to brag on them.
Yeah, they
I'm pretty
have.
sure this is it, Mom. At 70 years old, I'm pretty sure this is it. We're not going to change.
You get what you got.
Oh, they've all been pretty good youngins.
Yeah, they have. Okay, last question. This is a good one.
Okay.
Of all your kids, which one is the honoriest one?
Honorest one. Probably that no there.
Who's that one? Who are we talking about?
Kent.
He's shaking his head no.
Oh, I don't think that's the case.
They were all pretty good kids. But they're good helpers. We wouldn't have been able to do all we done on this farm if it hadn't been for them kids.
Yep. All right, well, that's all I've got for you. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's neat, Kelsey.
You bet.
One of the good questions.
What'd you say?